what's up guys? Welcome back to Diesel Creek. If this is your first time joining us, my name's Matt. This rusty yellow hunk of metal over here is the radiator and grill combination. It's the back end of the machine of my 1950s, 60s Galion 503 road grader that I've been doing a little bit of work to on the channel. If you haven't seen the previous videos, I drug the grader out of the woods. It was sitting there for quite some time. The guy says at least 10 years. We were able to get it fired up, drug it onto my trailer. I brought it home. The clutch wouldn't work. I removed the engine, brought it into the shop, gave it a good paint job, got the clutch torn apart, got all my parts back for the clutch. Now the last piece to the puzzle, this guy right here. The radiator was leaking a little bit and it's pretty ugly, so we're gonna head and get this thing cleaned up and get it painted to match the other parts I've been fixing up over to my right here. So we've got our fuel hydraulic tank combo right there, engine sitting right there, just waiting on me to get motivated and finish this thing. So let's go ahead and start stripping this thing down. From the back side here you can see the radiator is much smaller than this whole thing, and there's a bunch of these small little screws, these teeny little screws that are in here, and they're probably never been out since the machine was built, so they're going to be probably impossible. It's kind of a laughing matter to even think that those are going to come out. But what else? We have to pressure test our radiator because, like I said, it was some small leak. I think it was over in this area somewhere. Wasn't much of a leak, but we'll go ahead and do a pressure test on that. Hopefully we can find the leak and fix it up. And while everything's apart, we'll go ahead and sand it down, paint it up, get this thing looking much nicer than it does right now. This is going to be the toughest thing to fix up on here. This is not my forte, trying to be steady and paint something nice. Might sub that out to a relative of mine that's good at that stuff. So when you know you got some bolts or screws, or in this case, that are really stuck, and you know they're going to fight you the whole way, you might as well reach for the top shelf stuff. Bust out your trusty can of Croil here. I already soaked these down yesterday, but we'll go ahead and do it today. If there's anything that has a shot at getting these out of here, it's this stuff. But even at that, these things are just so rusted and they're so small that I don't have a whole lot of faith that they're coming out of there without being cut or drilled out, unfortunately. Alright, as I said, these screws are going to be incredibly hard to get out. I can tell just by looking at how rusty they are. So I'm going to go straight to the not playing around anymore step instead of messing around and stripping the heads off. We'll go ahead and just start heating this thing up, and I'll keep some pressure on the screw on the outside here, and maybe it'll give for us. You want to make sure you stand directly over top of the fumes too, so that if there's any lead paint cooking off, you really just get a good dose. Oh! I didn't see that happening. There's one. Put a little bit more oil on that while it's hot. Let capillary action do its thing. I can't believe that came out. Wowzers. Old Christine's finally starting to see that I'm trying to love her and help her, and she's trying to help me. I'm just going to get rid of those screws. We'll replace those with better ones. That's one down, 11 to go. I can't believe it. That's 2 for 2 so far. Unbelievable. But I'm not upset about it, I'll tell you that. Well, it's just going to be another half an hour of me playing around trying to get all these screws out, so I'll go ahead and time lapse this for you. I can't believe these things are coming out of here, guys. I mean, look how rusted those things are. There's not even threads left on them. It's amazing. Never, ever would I have guessed that all of those would have come out. Now, I hope I didn't just jinx myself for this side, but it's, knock on wood, going pretty well. Just straight blade screwdriver heads. Man, getting lucky today. Okay, amazingly enough, every single screw came out. I cannot believe I got that lucky. That's... the mind boggles. So anyway, the radiator should just lift right up out of here now, and then we can get all this stuff cleaned up, pressure tested, etc. Ew, I just stuck my fingers in the radiator and there is some schmoo in there. Ew, that needs cleaned out. So there we are. You know, usually on something like this, old tractors and whatnot, there's no protection up here, and this stuff's rather flimsy. Something of this age is usually all bent up and smashed right here, and this piece is actually really nice and straight. There's no major damage. A couple fins have a little wave to them, but not much at all. The only real damage is for the rad support here, and basically that only happened because of this piece right here being riveted up against this, created a pocket for moisture to hang out, and obviously it rusted and rotted away. Also, there was originally a spacer underneath of this plate which bolts down to the frame of the machine, and the spacer, I don't know whether it was wood originally, but that's what was in there when I removed it, was what was left of like a piece of 1x, and I don't think that was doing us any favors either, because then there was like a gap here essentially, and this weight was all bearing down on the sheet metal rather than the support like it's supposed to. So when we reassemble, we're gonna have to do that a little bit differently. I don't know if I'm gonna get a piece of 1x box tubing or maybe space it up with some heavy rubber belting. I don't know. I'll have to figure out something. I kind of like the rubber idea because it adds a layer of isolation to everything. Should help with vibration. But there we are back to the moisture issues. Now I'll take functionality over cosmetics any day, as a lot of you know. So we're going to go ahead and fix this first, make sure it's all good here. What I did first was install this rubber bilge plug in the bottom hose. I'm going to tap that in a little bit further, and then I'll go ahead and crank that down and make sure that's sealed up good. And then I have some more miscellaneous PVC crap that I'm going to clamp onto here with a Schrader valve, put a little pressure to it, and hopefully we can hear or see any air leaks. Now that the radiator is out here in the open where we can see it too, we can also see there's some sort of steel support thing that's rotted away here. I don't really understand the purpose of that thing. It's not doing anything structurally that I can see. And also the side of the core support rotted away pretty good right there. I don't know if I want to try to patch that or not. Looking pretty rough actually, all the way along this support bracket all the way up. Pretty rusted. Hate to see that. Actually, I'm seeing a crack right here in the lower half of the radiator, and I never saw it leak anything there, but it kind of has the discoloration around it, like it might have been getting wet. I'm not sure. We may end up taking this thing to a radiator shop to be professionally redone if it's above my skill level, which I guess that doesn't take much. Let's pressure test this thing. Got our radiator pressure checker tester all rigged up here. Just all pipe fittings and a Schrader valve at the end there, and we got the old gauge on here. We'll go ahead and feed her the onions and see if we can find any leaks in this thing. Alright, unfortunately I don't have a gauge that goes up, you know, in smaller increments. So PSI is the black here. We're only going to take it up to like the maybe the second line. Okay, yep, there's one big leak. That didn't take very long. This crack here, I don't know if you guys can see that. The GoPro doesn't like to focus on that stuff. There's a crack right there, but I think that should be pretty easy to clean up and braze that. And, you know, we'll probably end up finding multiple holes here, unfortunately. Well, it didn't exactly flow the way I wanted it to, but we can let it cool down and we'll pressure test it. Still feel a leak somewhere on this corner here. I'm just gonna put a ton of solder to it basically, because it looks like there might be a hairline running right up through here and maybe even one right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a bunch of solder to it. I saw it suck into a couple places over here, so maybe we got it. Pressurizing. Nope, still leaking over here. Where the heck is it coming from? Right here somehow. Okay, I see it. I see, said the blind man as he picked up his hammer and saw. Boy, it's ugly, but man, hope it'll hold. If I can't make it hold, there's a radiator shop I can take it to. He should be able to fix it. But yeah, it looks like it might have flowed where I needed it to that time. Pressurizing. Teeny leak down here now. And actually the one up here in the fins is the one I can hear more than anything right now. I think we'll stay away from this thing for a minute, fix this one in the fin, and then we'll come back to this. There it is. Oh yeah. Oh man. I might have just opened up a can of worms here. I tried to rip off one of these flutes to get a little bit better access to it, and I actually opened up the flute. It ripped the vein right next to it, so now I have two gaping holes up here. Can you guys see that? The whole side of this this core here is missing. The only thing I know to do to fix that is to pinch it off and solder it shut. And in the process of doing that, I'm kind of afraid that I'm going to break some more veins. I don't know what you call these pieces right here that run up and down. That's where the coolant runs, and these little things just dissipate heat. But I don't know what you call these things, the proper name for them. Man, that sucks. Oh man. Yeah, this thing's so brittle, you just touch these things and it's just falling apart. Ugh. I'm just doing more damage than good at this point. Dang it. I was really hoping to be able to patch this thing up. Alright, well, I think I'm taking it to the radiator shop. Hopefully he can just recore this thing, because like I say, these things are so brittle. I mean, you just look at them wrong and they're busting. Well, I took that outer shroud off. You can see it one last time before it goes to the radiator shop. Hopefully he can fix it. He said he'd give it his best shot. There's the original tag on it. Looks like it says Perfex Corporation, Milwaukee. Off to the shop. All right. With our radiator now at the shop, we can turn our attention back to this grill cover. I guess that's what you'd call this thing. It's got several layers of paint on it, just like the entire machine's had. We'll go ahead and flip this thing over and start soaking those screws with some Croil now. I'm hopeful we can get these things out of here without too much trouble, because they look a little bit better than the ones that we had to get out on the sides here. I couldn't believe those came out, so hopefully these ones will come out. We'll let that sit a little bit, and what I'm going to do is cut out an entire section here, and we'll weld the new piece back in there. Well, there's one side off. I probably should have cut off the rivets here before I cut the sheet metal apart. Oh well, we'll do that on the next side. Well, that should be fairly easy to patch, I hope. Alright, after raiding my entire metal hoard, I couldn't come up with any 14 gauge sheet metal. So, I called up the neighbor and he was nice enough to let me raid his stockpile, and I come up with a piece. I'll just try to set this in here ever so slightly, clamp it, and then I can just trace the edges. There we go. Now we just cut that box out. Should be able to slap it right in there. Alright, I got this thing all prepped up and ready to weld in here. I had to do a little bit of finesse work on the edges just to get it to fit as best I could. That looks pretty good right there. So yeah, we'll grab the old big blue hot glue gun and melt her in there. And contact. Seems like I get comments on nearly every video saying like, oh, you've got all these amazing skills. How'd you learn how to do all this stuff? I don't have any amazing skills. I'm pretty much winging it like 80% of the time. You just kind of give it some thinking. Think about how it could go good and it could go bad, and try not to do, try not to do the second one. See, like I just stayed in one place too long there on my tack and just melted that corner out. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm no body man. We're flat here, we're flush here. In the middle we got this hump. So this thing's actually stretched a little bit. So I'm going to tack this side, and we'll go ahead and take the hammer and tap that down a little bit. And it's not too bad, maybe sticking up just maybe a 1/16 if that. Yeah, see? Perfect. Use your noodle. It'll all work out. This side's kind of in the middle of a radius, so it's going to take a little bit more finesse, I think. So this side, we'll just keep stitching it all the way up. I put the tack, I move the clamp ahead of the tack, and then I'll tack ahead of the clamp, and then just keep leapfrogging it all the way up this side. Okay, how about that? This side cleaned up pretty good too. It's paper thin up here around this bolt hole. I could have built that up a little bit, probably with some weld, but I just let that go. I'll use a bigger washer there. Yeah, it's not perfect. If you look down across it here, it's good enough for who it's for, you know. Okay, last thing we have to do is go ahead and pull this emblem off of here, and I'm going to go sandblast this thing, which is something you guys tell me I need to do all the time. And truth be told, I just hate doing it. It's such a messy, dirty, pain in the butt process, basically. It does a really good job, but it's just inconvenient the way I have it set up right now. Oh yeah, it's turning. There we go. We got it now. I was concerned about this rust under here too. This emblem, you know, sitting on there like that really holds the moisture in behind there, so I was concerned this was going to be pretty rotted, but it doesn't look too bad. That's good. Alright, we're down here in the sandblasting booth, and basically this nozzle shoots out this black sand looking stuff that's all over the place, and it does it at under air pressure. Yeah, it works pretty good. Got our parts back from sandblasting. So far, sight better, huh? Good gravy, that is a tedious process. Ugh. And I'm going to have to do that one more time. I did that so I could keep the edges of the letters established. I'm going to shoot the whole thing white right now. Ugh, this is going to be a process. Alright, well there it is with the paint all, or the tape all peeled off. I don't know, it turned out decent. I'm kind of unhappy. I did have some spots here where the white peeled off. Right there, right there, and right there, and right there. And then we had a few spots of gray peel off as well. That's disappointing, but I can touch those up with a small paintbrush. What's really upsetting is that the masking tape did not seal off very well with that gray paint, and we've got some bleed through on the edges here. It just doesn't look real good. So yeah, and the other thing I did wrong, I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, I think you can see it there. It almost looks like there's tape left in the middle of the letters, and what that's from is that I left parts of the letters exposed for those 2 coats of paint before the black, and that was stupid because now I've got this thick layer and outline there, and it looks like there's tape underneath the letter. I should have completely taped the letters off. That was very stupid of me, but you live and you learn. This is kind of my first go at doing something intricate like this, so it is what it is. I'm gonna touch it up as best I can and call it good enough for me. Well, remember I said I was winging it. I wasn't lying, but I am very happy with the way this came out. Nice and glossy, covered pretty good. I thought about giving it another coat, but I'm worried that we're gonna have adhesion issues. I did have a bug land in it right there. Pretty disappointing about that. This pitting here and this metal wrinkled up like that, we're gonna have our badge cover that over, so it's not an issue. But I'm pretty happy with it. I think these dimples from the spot welds, I think those showed themselves more than they did before I sandblasted it. You gotta watch with sandblasting, you can deform metal, and I think I might have caused some of that dimpling there. But still good enough for what I'm doing here. I think it turned out really good. Got a Radiator Fan Shroud here. It turned out good. I've got some runs on this part. I was pretty much adjusting the gun when I painted this because you'll never see it anyways. It'll be tucked in behind the radiator. Same with this guy. Doesn't look quite as nice, but heck, it's going to be piled underneath the radiator. It doesn't matter at all. You'll never see it. Just rust proofing at this point. Okay, now I still have to touch this thing up, obviously, but I just wanted to throw it together and see what it looked like, and I'm pleasantly surprised that it really looks classy. We've got old Christine looking sharp now. I think she's really going to like her new coat of paint. I think the grader's going to be looking good. I'm going to do the entire machine just like I mixed this batch up. I think this turned out really good. It's got a nice gloss to it, and we'll see. Once I have the whole machine together, maybe I'll even clear coat the whole thing just as an added level of protection. But yeah, it's not perfect. It's got some runs and some imperfections, but I'm happy with it. I still have to drill this thing out for the radiator support to go back in there and touch up this decal. But other than that, all we're going to have left to do on the grader now is get the radiator back from the repair shop. $660 to get it re-cored. They could not get me a new radiator. It's too specific. So that's a big bummer. But we're going to get that back from the radiator shop. We're going to put new hydraulic lines on Christine, and then we're going to paint the whole machine and reassemble. So we're coming down to the wire. It's going to be really nice to see the whole thing tie together here. Pretty excited about that. Anyways, guys, I think that about wraps up this episode. If you liked the video, if you think old Christine's going to be looking sharp now, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Drop me a comment down below if you think it looks good, or if you think I did a sloppy job. It's good enough for the socially distant restoration. Also, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the end of the restoration. Get out of here, moth! Make sure you don't miss the end of the restoration. Everything's really coming together now. It's getting exciting. Hopefully we get this thing back together in time for the Steam show that I go to. I'll get to take it out there and play with it a little bit, and we'll get to see some other old equipment still in working shape. So, as always, guys, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Later.